Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Down Majestic. Yeah.
Right, so there are still people going to be strangled, Simon, but I think it's okay going.
I don't mind, it's up to you. You're in charge, man.
Right, welcome back everybody. Sorry we had rather a prompt cup of tea. In 2010, I was fortunate to be the head judge for the IOD Director of the Year Awards in the South region of the IOD, one of which that year went to Simon Bilcliffe. A passion for business and a rage against social injustice formed the backbone of Simon's success as founder of print services specialist Webmart, a 25 million turnover business. Now, I have it on good authority that he has global ambitions and he's an Iron Man actually at heart, and in his spare time he's in a man in a hurry training for his Iron Man, but we're very grateful to you, Simon, to come and spend the time with us this afternoon. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to the idiosyncratic world of Webmart and Marxist capitalism. It's not often you get Marxists within the hallowed halls of the IOD. It's only recently they've allowed you to wear jeans, so it takes time, I think it's fair to say, for things to evolve here. I've got half an hour, so I've got to rattle on with it, so please feel free to ask questions at the end, write them down. As I've put down here, I'm very proudly from Barnsley in Yorkshire. It gives me a comparative advantage over most people down south, in that I can be direct and you expect it because I'm from Yorkshire, and also because I'm from the north, we trust everybody from the moment you meet people. Kind of unusual for down here. Usually you take incremental steps to trust. So I'm going to share everything with you on Webmart and the unusual commercial model that I run Webmart in. And there are no books on our model. I should write one at some stage, but I need to get to 100 million before anybody will publish it. So I'm going to just crack on with what we're doing now. So what I'm going to do is show you something which works for everybody. And this is where capitalism is spectacularly rubbish. It's very good at creating value, it's very bad at sharing it out. So the key to it is, if you're trying to attract the talent in a non-sexy industry like the printing industry, which we're in, then you need to make it inclusive. You need to use all of the strength of capitalism, but create it so everybody wins out of it. If you want a copy of this afterwards, connect with me. There are two Simon Bilcliffes on LinkedIn, myself and my cousin who's a plumber in Doncaster. So, you know, it's really tricky to find out who it is. There's a lot of slides to go through, so I'll crack on. Just to frame what we do, we're in a marketplace, as you'd imagine, printing and related services, that has gone through a massive change. So, it's a £13 billion market still in the UK, 1 trillion globally, and it's growing, say, for example, in India, it's growing at 15% a year. So far from dying, it's evolving, but it's being data-driven. So a huge transformational change from a traditional metal industry to a digital industry, and so we have to attract the right kind of talent. So just to frame what we're going through as a business. My business model started in the miners' strike, and some of you will remember this, some of you won't. It was an area where the Thatcher government decided to shut down whole tracts of the north of England, and really on a whim to break the Union power. And as a consequence of that, it kind of felt fundamentally wrong that the government could use power to destroy the country, which kind of rings true with the Brexit thing earlier on. But anyway, I'll move on from that. What it did, though, is open your eyes to the fundamental injustice that is inherent within our society. So things like huge inequality. That picture is taken from the 1930s. It is just as unequal in America today as it was then. And, you know, 0.1% of the world's population owns 90% of the wealth. It's wrong. It shouldn't be this way. Similarly, human exploitation, the zero-hours contract culture, and things like that. We try and debase to the lowest common denominator. There was a chat earlier on about artificial intelligence and machine learning and how that could diminish even further the quality of life of a number of people if we don't retrain and reskill. Environmental degradation, obviously, the externalities of capitalism are pretty dreadful. We don't actually filter in the cost of creating the value that we've got. And of course, the vested interests of people like this, who kind of claim to do it for the right reasons. And if you watched Dispatches on Monday, you'll see how somebody like this has a very different agenda to the one in the public persona. And it means that governments actually start looking at things that don't mean anything to any of us. None of us actually feel happier because of that. There is no correlation between the GDP, which was something that was brought in the 1920s in the American Federal Reserve, just to understand what was going on in the Great Depression. But now all of a sudden it's the acid test of how well a country do. But the truth of the matter is that all it means is that the disparity in wealth goes up and the average goes down. So the difference between affordability and the standard of living goes down. There is a disconnect between what government is trying to push for and the common person and their livelihoods. And we see that in the papers every day. And things like house prices, which are completely unaffordable now to the majority of people. And these are things that aren't for the politicians. This is what we as business leaders should be looking at new ways of creating wealth that narrow these disparities, etc. And I looked slightly more fundamentally into it, and I looked into the spend of an individual through life. This is it. This is the you start off kind of skint, to be brutally honest, and then you go up, you end up having a family, starting homes, then they go to university and want designer clothes and all that kind of stuff. And then the global high point of your spending is at 48. Thereafter, you've got all the bits that you want. Thereafter, you don't really need a bigger house because your kids are left home and whatever. You start to downsize, and all of a sudden you go all the way down, and then gradually it slips down to retirement, looking after you in old age and stuff. And you actually don't want to travel, and you don't want to do anything, and you go slippery slope to spending very little, very similar kind of amount as when you were a sprog. There is a corollary to this, which is the global index on happiness. This is from The Economist. I have to say, I was most reassured it was a kind of smiley U-shape rather than I imagine you started ecstatic and you had misery towards this end. Luckily, it's quite a bit more positive than that. You know, as you're a young person, you have exams and that stresses you out a bit. Then you have a career path and that stresses you out a bit. Then you have a mortgage and that stresses you out a bit. Then you have, kids, they very much stress you out a bit. And then when they leave home and you've kind of realised at the point that you are what you are, you start to enjoy life again. The global nadir of your happiness is 50. I'm 53. Happy fucking days. I've got the rest of my life to go on. Now, there is a fundamental dichotomy in the form of market capitalism that we are all living. That the more you spend, there is an inverse relationship between that and how happy you are. And when you start to look into that, you start thinking, actually, you see that in everyday life. You see that with people buying stuff that they don't want, that they don't need, and all that kind of stuff. It starts to clutter your life up. So by looking at that juxtaposition between your self-declared happiness and how much money you spend, and you realise there's an inverse proportion and relationship between that, then all of a sudden it becomes quite liberating. And I think you'll find millennials have found this out. They don't go up this standard of living ladder that we used to do. They decide they actually want to enjoy themselves at the same time as having a life and having a career and going out and travelling and doing all those kind of things. So the consumer capitalism that, if you read back in the 30s, people like John Maynard Keynes could not believe that we will carry on acquiring more and more stuff. He thought we'd spend more time doing the things that we wanted to do. And instead, we had this marketing revolution, post-war, got more and more stuff that we don't like. And so we are now where worldwide only 13% of people are engaged in their workplace. You're paying 100% for these people. But if you're wanting to look at that, you've got 87, well, not very good numbers, 87% failure rate in your individual engagement. 37% now, before artificial intelligence, people think that their job is meaningless. Kind of tricky. And then I just like that quote, so I put it there. We're working for jobs we hate so we can buy shit we don't need. That's the kind of synopsis of the research that I've done into the current form of capitalism. So I thought, what happens in an evolutionary way? And the reason I'm an evolutionary capitalist is rather than a revolution. Revolution destroys value. You can look all around the world for examples of that. There are very few revolutions that create value going forward. Whereas evolution is the natural state of things. Nothing stays the same. Everything evolves. And there is an evolutionary, capitalism has never always been this way. It never will continue to be that way. So it's all up for grabs. You can create your own version of it going forward. So I looked at, when I started Webmart as how can I create a different type of business model? And this is what I say, it's rage within the machine. Instead of trying to be on the outside with placards and shouting at people, you try and get on the inside to drive change. You try and make capitalism better for everybody, rather than just saying you should be doing it better. Come up with a model that works better. So, if I look at this now, and back in 1996, looking rather like Harry Potter before J.K. Rowling had written about it, I started up Webmart as a Marxist capitalist business. And fast forward now, we have the world's dullest balance sheet. It's a 45 degree, we have it like that. Reassuringly boring. It just carries on accruing value over time. We're really, really tax efficient, but not for the individual, but for society. So we put all of our bonuses through payroll, so we pay the highest rate of marginal tax that we can on those, and it's my responsibility to give the opportunity for people to earn as much as they possibly can. Because the truth of the matter is, tax pays for this. And these are the things that do make a difference. GDP doesn't, but tax does make a difference to people's lives. And I've come from Barnsley, as I said, which in austerity has lost 40% of its central government support, the highest in the country. The average has been 14. So I can see the damage that it does when we don't have enough tax to go around, because the government really does a good job at providing these things, and the private sector doesn't do as good a job. So you need to create a great tax base so we can have the quality of life and the society that we all want for ourselves and our kids. We pay people more because we put what's called surplus profits, and I'll go on to that later, to individuals. And at the same time, we give quite a lot of money to charity. And how we decide how much we give to charity, all the money that we've got on the balance sheet, which is cash in the bank, we earn interest on it. That interest goes to good causes, because we haven't had to do anything for it. We just get that, so we share that out with good causes, but in a meaningful way to the individuals within the business. And making business as simple as possible. You don't need to do your own MBAs and understand your business macroeconomics and your microeconomic policies and stuff. And I'll give you a good example of how you keep it really simple. This is the Webmart business model. It's kind of straightforward. You know where you start immediately. You know what the objective is. You know how you can get there. You can slowly do it, or you can find what we could call as ladders, which are basically your network shortcuts. That working out with tech partners in a trusting relationship people share with you to avoid snakes and get ladders. And that's where being Northern is dead on you, because if I share with people, then they always share back. They'll either try and help you as much as they can because you've been open with them and help them without any expectation of anything back in return, or they'll try and screw you really quick. But it's typically on a kind of 10-to-1 ratio. People are not trustworthy. So I build a network really quickly. And as a consequence of that, I can always call on advice to find the next ladder to get to where we want. Most organisations, it's very difficult to allocate why you are doing it. That's the 100. What you're doing in this next financial year. And we make it really, really simple so everybody understands it. So very quickly now, onto the how. Well, as we all know, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. The trouble with most businesses is that you only measure one thing, which is financial return. And as the old adage goes, for the man with a hammer, the whole world is a nail. And if you only look at the financial perspective, then who'd have believed it? All the other stuff that you're looking at, engagement and retention, are all goes out the window. Because actually, money only is a marginal driver for the right performance, the right behaviours, the right style of kind of business, to attract the right kind of calibre of talent in your organisation. We, as a Marxist capitalist business, look at three things. Firstly, the intellectual return. So we need to understand what people are good at. If you understand what they're good at, then people are given the role that allows them to do that. They enjoy it. Who'd have thought it? So if they've intellectually got a competitive advantage and they are enjoying it, people want to trade with people like that. That's called great customer service, that's called great engagement, that's called all the stuff that you want to do. And money comes out of it, called the financial return. So we maximise all three things. And on an individual level, that's what it looks like. And the truth of the matter is, of course, if you are somebody trying to get a career, that is what you want out of an employer. You want to be able to do that. You want to enjoy yourself. Sadly, for most people, let's say I'm 53, most of my mates who started out when they did what they were good at, what pays well, and they're here going, what the bloody hell was that about at 53? They're all going, I've spent 25 years being an accountant or a lawyer, and I hated every minute of it. I've got paid off my mortgage, now what? I've got no mates, I've got no time, I'm stressed off my head, all this kind of stuff. Millennials get this. And so we as an organisation and you as an organisation should deliver that to your people if you're wanting to get the best people. And then we don't just look within the business, we are an extrospective. Rather than an introspective business, everybody knows we're extrospective. We look outside, we look across the supply base, customer base and internally, how the three interactions work together. And this is a basic premise in this world that I don't think most companies have got their head around. You can't outcompete. If you outcompete, somebody loses, but you can out-collaborate. And that's a totally different skill set that you need. So your collaboration skills, your openness, the way that you engage with your stakeholders inside and outside of your organisation is totally different. Really simple as well, because it's transparent and based on trust. You get them too? It's really, really easy. And then align everybody. So the purpose of delivering to your clients and your suppliers and you're in the middle is an alignment thing. That's all you have to do as CEO. Align everybody to deliver at an individual level and across your sphere of influence. So firstly, maximising the intellectual return. How do you do that? Really easy. You ask them. You ask people. You pivot the job role around the individual rather than the individual into the job role. And you keep morphing that. We ask them every 6 months. So we make sure we find out what people enjoy doing, let them do more of what they enjoy, less of what they don't enjoy, and then we keep rinsing and repeating all the way through their career. So my head of finance started off in telemarketing. My sales director, who's 30, has been with us 12 years, started off in IT. The talents evolve, the person evolves, the role has to revolve, and they can cross around the functions and all of those kind of things if they want to. You need to understand the person though. You need to do psychometrics. We do this before people start. There's a free one there if you've never done one for your team. It shows the inner drivers, what matters to people. What matters to people. So that's actually mine. So my economic driver is very low. My theoretical about how to apply ideas and stuff is very high. If you understand that about people, then you can get the right job for the individual. That's before they even start. When they start, we then, because you can blag your way through an interview and you think you're a great person, but everybody in the business ranks everybody anonymously 3 months in. So instantly we've got three basic capability measures: the capability to do the job, their passion for the job, and their potential to be a great long-term web marketer. Only when they get through that do they carry on to the end of the 6 months. We do it again at 6 months, and then they pass their probation period. The good thing is we build in appreciation as well. So great things about that person. So they get a good feel about it. So you've got effectively 30 people in a review with them. These are the great things. And areas for development. So they know what success looks like in that role. And then we do it every 6 months. And we're indexing against not KPIs that you'd not want to do conventionally. We do that in terms of sales targets and all that stuff. These are about how well you are part of a community. So how well you share knowledge and wisdom, and we index it against the individual, against the average of the team, which is that line there, all the way down to how well I take a joke. So I know I take a joke 3.2% better than the average web marketer, because that's what they told me when they ranked me anonymously. And mine's the only one that's made public. So you get that accountability at the top, because otherwise who reviews you and your performance? And then we say thank you to everybody. So these are the top web marketeers, these are the most influential people within WebMart, based on their individual scores, based on how well they contribute to the community, and how interactive they are with people. And quite a lot of these people are support staff that don't naturally get a kind of appreciation. But appreciation is a free way of retaining and recruiting the right kind of people. So we've got big screens like this throughout our offices where they update every 2 minutes, but this is the one that repeats for the next 6 months. Everything else is live and dynamic, but that is on the 6 monthly review cycle, it gets there. And we have our Webmart Oscars, where the top people get given their thing, and just a thank you and appreciation all the way through. And also, of course, once you understand what they've got a competitive advantage, training. 73% of millennials, the most important thing about a job is their professional development, their experience, their opportunity, their talent is recognised and made the most of. If you don't do that, you're going to lose them. And it doesn't involve money. Money is about third, fourth. It really isn't the most important thing. So the good thing is there's loads of really good training facilities out there, and continual professional development is relatively easy, but you do need to get a process in place for it. And then you invert the management structure. So I'm here, and I'm there to support, as it says here, mentor and be a critical friend to the people above me. It's not being the big I am. So that goes up, and innovation comes down, because the frontline people are the people that know how to innovate your organisation, not you. Whatever you are, no matter how on you are moving away from the day-to-day. And you've got maximum amount of people going here, then they come up with innovation. It's my responsibility to make sure we improve the business really, really quickly. So mentoring rather than management goes up, and then support goes up, innovation comes down. It's a total inversion to the way that most businesses run. And have more female money. I put it in speech marks because it isn't exclusive to female, but it's hard as a bloke from 53 from Barnsley to do these kind of things. But these are what people actually want from a leader these days. I used to think it was a big iron hero at the front and all that kind of stuff. But actually, if you look at the kind of more female traits, there's a book called The Athena Doctrine, which I took that from. That's what people want out of leadership these days. So you can have a copy of this if you want. And I win as well, because continued professional development doesn't stop when you're CEO. You've got to continue to develop. So I don't have time to go on a formal course and stuff. And to be honest, they're rubbish. I've been speaking at most MBAs and stuff, all over the world. They're not very good. They're a bit retrospective and whatever. So I do what's called my DIY MBA. It's where I put in my diary, Tuesday, I go in the Webmart camper van, up to the top of a hill, with my hard house trance music and my cups of tea, and I sit there reading and watching videos about, at the moment, federated artificial intelligence learning, which is something that I'm trying to do, because actually I need to do that to give the steer for the business strategically going forward. And it costs no. You just got to have the discipline to block out that time every week. And then when you do that, it's a great release to do it. So this is my thinking, not doing time. The rest of the time I've got 6 screens on my desk looking at metrics and blah, blah, blah. But that time you need that space to go out and see people. And also giving other people the chance to do it. We've got a farm, the Webmart Oxygen Farm, 166 acres of beautiful rewilding countryside down in Coldingham. Most people who are from down here have never been to Scotland, don't realise how lovely it is, so we give them 2 weeks a year for free to go out with their families. It's really rubbish internet, really rubbish, so you can just about get the weather, but you've got loads of games, you've got loads of fires, you've got loads of walks, loads of nature reserves, you've got your Ely Blighton kit to go and make hammocks and all that kind of stuff, and it's a really good perk. So we've turned some of the cash in the business into something that actually emotionally and intellectually gives people the opportunity to bond with their families, because it's a family first business. Nothing comes above the family. There is no choice, it is family first. We will work around to make sure that we have the opportunity to be the best, if you like, custodian of their career that we possibly can. If you do that, you get it paid back in spades, irrespective. Secondly, emotional return, maximise the love and fun at work. It's really, really important to people. And then we publish it on our website, so everybody can see how happy Webmart is. Really simple, we have streams around there where people say how they're feeling. We aggregate that together, and it gives a good overall view of how Webmart is from an E point of view. Never forgetting, we do spend a shed load of time together. So we've made the Yellow Shed of Wonderment an interesting place for people to go. So this is some of the, this kind of freaks people out when you start doing a video conference from here. They think you're on a plane, then you walk outside and get a cup of coffee. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So this is one of the rooms, these are some of the other rooms. This is the Wheel of Fortune, where we spin when we've hit target in a month and somebody's dreams come true. The gym downstairs, where's the 30 cinema, that's our training room. Where People Eat is our nice cafe, and my favourite, the Elizabethan Ballroom, which is where we do our strategy planning sessions in Bicester. And also share with people what's going on in the business. There is one version of the truth in Webmart, and that is shared. People will take it in turns, we spin the board, and somebody does the video. It's a 5-minute video about what's going on in Webmart. And anybody can stream it. We do it at beer o'clock, which is 4 o'clock on a Friday. We all have beer, sit down, and somebody's video. Different types of people do it in different ways. That's Lee, who's COO. This is young Flo, who's 22 yesterday, who did a poem about the news of the week. I did it before I went down to the gym, which is why I look quite so scary. But everybody has a choice to make their own personality when they do it. But the nice thing about it is, and this is a customer that actually told me this, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. It's really true, because I'm rubbish with remembering stuff. It was actually Alex Pratt he said that to me. I thought that was brilliant, because I've always said it's really efficient. If you've got one version of the truth, you'd have to think of multiple iterations, have a different ball backing them. Just keep it really simple and everybody understands it. Whilst all the time making sure people realise they've got security. Security, especially at moments like this, is really important to people because they've got mortgages, they've got families, etc. So we share, every time money comes in, we put it on the board, it comes on a flash. We share the cash balance in the business. It's at the moment £4.3 million, and everybody knows that. Because actually, if you look at Maslowian hierarchy of needs, my responsibility is to get a framework where everybody has this. That's as a CEO, that's my role. Everyone else's is that. It's to be the most creative, the most innovative version of them that they can be and work together as a team to deliver a world-class solution in print management to the marketplace. If I look after these hygiene factors here, they spend the vast majority of their time up there being creative, and that's what we pay them for. That's where that 13% engagement becomes near 100% engagement about these things. That's why I get a comparative advantage with relatively low amount of people to create a business like we do. Lastly, 3, maximising the financial returns. So we've covered intellectual, we've covered emotional. The last thing is financial, and as we saw earlier on in the presentation, too much money does not make you happy. Fact of life. Neither is poverty. Poverty is not cool either. So the key to it is working out what enough is. Because having everybody at the top with loads actually isn't natural. The natural state, trees don't grow forever. They get up to a certain height and then they go. There is a natural cycle in life, and we've skewed it too far the other way. So, leadership and peer respect is not about you. Because the truth of the matter is, and I hate to tell you this, nobody cares what you do for you, ever. Occasionally your parents, perhaps. Nobody else does. You get a nice new car, they don't think that's great for you. They actually resent you. The truth of the matter is, if you want to be a good leader, it's what you do for everyone else that matters. It's about every individual throughout your organisation. If you want to test that hypothesis, who would you rather work for? The people who look after themselves, whatever, to the exclusion of everyone else, or people who've got those kind of timeless values of altruism, of trying to make the change in the world that we all recognise was needed, and they've actually put their lives online to help and support as many people as they possibly can. You've got a choice in your leadership style, what you want to be, one like the top or one like the bottom. I know which I'd rather be. Because the truth of the matter is, individual greed and selfishness absolutely destroys value. If you've got 2 versions of the truth, then, one public, one private, it screws your culture, and that won't attract the right people and the talent that you want to take your business forward. So really keep it really simple. So work out what's enough for the reinvestment of the business, for the ownership group, and that is enough. Enough is enough, as I put there, clues in the word. So at Webmart, we use capitalism to create a really good economic surplus, and where I differ from my left-wing compadres is that I think business is good. If you look at society, the only thing that creates value, that creates the society wanted business. Outside of that, nothing else does, it's debt. Anything else, a redistribution of the money that's created by the business. So I say profit is very good. It's a great thing, as long as we share it out. As long as we pay the right amount of tax to pay for the society that we want. And create the opportunity for us to have the best version of our society that we can do, and then use Marxism to create the share of surplus profits. So strange value thing, saying enough profits retained in the business and then the surplus gets shared out amongst people. So we worked out for the last, why it's 45-degree balance sheet, is we worked out £400,000 retained profit is enough for us to innovate, to create and all this kind of stuff. That's enough. The rest of it gets shared out amongst the business through what we call the Webmart Sexy Scheme, the Senior Executive Incentive Scheme. That is where everybody who's been there 2 years is in it. So between 0 and £400,000, that's the retention line, all of it's retained. Between 400,000 and a million, half goes to the team, half goes to me. Above £1 million, all of it goes to the team. So it gives a real incentive, an entrepreneur's incentive for everybody to work together to grow the business, to allow them to be the very best version that they can be. So what I want to kind of bringing this into your day here is say you have got a choice how you run your businesses, really. You don't have to be the way that the media portrays it in The Apprentice and The Dragon's Den and all that kind of stuff. The establishment says that you have to run it, the professional classes say there is only one way of doing it. You can actually run a successful business for 23 years in a completely diametrically opposite way to that. You can run your own business as you want, not as anybody else wants. And hopefully you've taken out the change that we saw we wanted to make, the inequality and the degradation, that we need to make a change. These are things that we as business people have got to be involved in, because not long ago these people were the heretics, these are the people, the anti-establishment people, but now of course you look back and you think, well, of course they were right, but they weren't at the time, and we've got a mantle to pick up for today. Say that today's heretics are tomorrow's heroes. And so we've got to make our business have a purpose, because everybody goes around the purpose. The talent that you need, the customers that you want, the suppliers you want to work with are looking for this in your business. So society can be fairer using this redistributive approach, when the working day can be more enjoyable for everybody, including myself. It's a lot easier to run a business where you're not having to worry about being taken to court, or you're having to worry about staff retention or recruitment. We don't have a problem with any of those kind of things. And of course it's got to be much more sustainable for everybody. We're carbon positive to the tune of 2,276 people because of their investment in the ecosystem around us. So welcome to Marxist capitalism. It's an evolution on from the current form of capitalism we've got, and it's now your turn in this room of how you want to be different. Do it your own way, but either which way. Get on your marks, get set, go. Thank you very much.
Wow, well that's sort of food for thought. Questions?
Why are people afraid of transparency? Because it seems to me the key to the success of this, what you design, is that it's completely transparent.
Yeah.
You must be afraid of transparency. Why do you think that is?
I think we're not used to it. I think transparency is the second most powerful force on earth after gravity. People don't do stupid things when they're going to get found out. So the more transparent you make it, the fairer it is. You know, the MPs wouldn't have done all the expenses scandal if they knew they had to publish their expenses. People wouldn't hide tax if they knew they had to publish in the public domain, like they have in Sweden and Scandinavia for 100 years, allowing tax returns to be online and viewable by everyone. Personally, that's the first thing I'd do. Say in 2 years' time, all tax returns are going online. And making it easy to run business, compliance and stuff. The easiest thing the government should do is make, and it sounds as dull as anything, make accounting software free for anybody. So, because if you start up, you're auto-compliant all the time. They build the compliance into it, rather than us having to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds with accountants and solicitors and bankers. Let's just make it for free. And then as you grow, notice you've taken somebody on. Here's the compliance form, just tick a box and it's done. So then you get the right amount of tax paid by government, you get all the support that you need in terms of professional development. The government can control that. They've got, we've talked about cyber security before. It's in a controlled way, it's done. Your annual return gets, click a button, it's done. And the government owns the data. so they can actually see what's going on. Rather than, and then of course from HMRC point of view, they go for everybody who isn't using that, because by definition, those people are compliant. So it's a lot of common sense, and transparency delivers a huge amount of value to everybody, and it's simple. So the truth is I don't know, but it is a culture change for most people, most companies. You know, Enron was a fantastic business. It really was. If you look in the 1980s, before it, you know, but then you get the greed and you get multiple, all of a sudden it goes, and obviously a huge crash and stuff. So transparency, the more transparent it is, the better it is. It's self-regulated, but it is a culture change.
I'd be curious, Simon, are you actually seeing businesses you know now following you in a way? Are you actually seeing that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've been a big disciple here for some while.
I think most people are realising that there is a better way of running it than command and control. It's quite stressful, it's quite difficult to comply. They see that these millennials are really difficult, but they're actually not. You know, we've employed our first generation Z last week, generation 14. Came to do some work experience at the half term. His mum and dad worked downstairs in the with us. This guy was doing social media analysis for us. Wednesday afternoons he's free, he can come and do that. The school is delighted, and obviously his mum and dad says fine. This guy did an assessment of our social media campaign, and he sat there and did a presentation to us and said, just so you know, I've got 28,000 followers on Instagram, and I sell sweaty skins on Fortnite. What are they? And these are digital products that you add to garb on, you know, digital characters and all this kind of stuff. That's 14-year-old that's coming into our business will add unique value to us. I don't know quite how yet, but it's, you know, for whatever it is an hour. Oh my God, why would we want to learn that? We can bring in somebody like that to do that and advise us on there. And so you need to be open. Now, I didn't even know this person was coming in, but the team allowed, you know, said, yeah, of course, you're open. And this is where transparency and openness and trust is really important, because then you bring in the talent without even knowing you need it. So it does change, because it's all about people. And, you know, business is a bag of people with a few signature processes and a bit of mission in it, but it's actually the people. So you get better people, then all of a sudden you're a better business. It's simple as that. So, yeah. Any more before I head off into the wild blue yonder?
I think you've stunned everybody as usual. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We've made it to the end of the day, everybody. Well done. I'd like to introduce Anna DeRoy, who's the Director General of the IOD Operational in inverted commas, to close the day for us. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. How do I follow that? I'm Anna DeRoy, the Interim Director General for the IOD. I'd like to begin really with a number of important thank yous as I close this event for today. So firstly, thank you to our wonderful team here at the IOD for organising the event. I'm sure that you will agree it's been a superb event with